I finally made it to the holy trifecta of what in the colossal mess. That is How I Met Your Mother episode 16, 17, and 18, or as I am now calling them, the buyer's remorse episodes. Let's talk about that, shall we? Now, usually I would give an in depth synopsis of each of the episodes before I dive into my analysis of events that's tied directly to what I want to examine within the show. But honestly, seeing that I'm talking about 3 episodes at once and trying to just explore what they say about the characters of Ted, Victoria, and Robin with cameos from Barney, Lily, and Marshall, of course, I think I'll just go for a synopsis that sticks to the core of what the video topic is more inclined towards. Because personally, I think it says a lot that these 3 episodes kick off with Cupcake, which is the episode where Victoria gets her dessert fellowship, and Lily and Barney both make purchases that they regret almost instantaneously. I mean, I can't be the only one who's drawing those parallels, right? Right? But before I get into the synopsis of things, a reminder for those who need reminding. I am currently watching How I Met Your Mother for the first time. These series of videos are me talking about the show as I watch along. I just finished watching season 1, episode 18, titled Nothing Good Happens After 2 a.m. So please don't drop any spoilers after that point. And if you would like to follow along with me on this crazy ride that is my first time watching of this show, don't forget to hit subscribe and like this video whilst you're at it. And with that said, a synopsis of the 3 episodes as I want to get to sharing my thoughts stat. Cupcake is the 16th episode of the first season, and basically we are dropped right in the middle of the absolute relationship bliss that is Ted and Victoria. They are happy and in love, and Ted is failing spectacularly at trying to bake a cupcake. Marshall, on the other hand, has an interview for an internship at his dream law firm, except that his suit is very holy and he's taking to filling it in with black marker. You know, for a brilliant mind, Marshall sometimes is so incredibly stupid. Anyway, Barney shows up, rips Marshall's suit to basically strong arm him into following him to meet his tailor Sergey, who he promised would make Marshall a worthy suit at a third of said suit's price. Marshall, who is a struggling law student, is absolutely down for this. Lily, on the other hand, is out to test wedding dresses as she hopes to get something amazing, and although it was initially meant to be just her and Robin doing the search, Victoria's offer of her contacts, remember, she bakes wedding cakes and so is in a lot of lists with other vendors that provide said services to potential brides. Anyway, due to this, Lily is down for Victoria to join them. Robin is not because, you know, she's still jealous that Ted got with Victoria just as she had come to terms with her feelings for him. Before they do go for the search, however, Ted and Victoria are hit with a good news, bad news combo. Good news is that a dessert fellowship that Victoria had applied for finally got back to her. She's in. Bad news, the said fellowship is in Germany and they need her to report in immediately. I'm talking the following Monday immediately. Ted is bummed out, as is Victoria, as they both admit that long distance relationships ain't shit. And so the options that are available for them is either for Victoria to choose to turn down the fellowship or for them to break up. They agree to meet up later after they've had time to think things through to give their final answer. Ted meets up with Marshall, who is getting suited up for his new suit by Barney's tailor Sergey, and Marshall agrees with Ted about long-distance relationships not being as cracked up as they are made to be. Barney, on the other hand, is team long-distance relationships because, you know, options. But Ted is torn about the whole issue because what if Victoria is the one and he breaks off with her because of this? But also, it's a lot of responsibility for him to tell her to stay and not take on such an important fellowship when their relationship is only 2 months old. And Barney being the voice of reason because Marshall is all stuck in the, what if she's your true love? Marshall is an enabler of Ted's romantic terrorism, y'all. Just putting this out there, just in case I've never said this in any video I've made so far. But anyway, Barney is the voice of reason, pointing out that there is so much about Victoria that Ted has zero ideas about. For example, is she a cat person or a dog person? Ted's all, of course she's a dog person. I'm a dog person and I only like dog people. It calls her, Victoria's of course, a cat person. Because, the show has to highlight how perfect Robin is for Ted. Because, she's got a bajillion dogs. But back to Ted. Ted is shocked at this and also realizes that 2 months really is a short amount of time and he can't in good conscience ask Victoria to stay because of him. So he decides that he will break up with her. Meanwhile, over at Lily, Victoria and Robin's, Lily is testing out hideous upon hideous wedding dresses because that's unfortunately what her budget can afford. Robin is being completely snipey, but this completely goes over Victoria's head whilst Lily keeps trying to get Robin to behave. Finally, after Victoria grabs an expensive dress by the display window so that Lily can at least try on a gorgeous dress, even if it's one that is not on her budget and she cannot afford it at the moment, Robin and Victoria have a moment to chat alone. Victoria talks about how utterly amazing Ted is and how she really wants to stay, but their relationship is also very new, and at the same time she wonders if she's sacrificing her career prospects and growth for a man, and what does that say about her? Robin, who has been slowly getting drunk all this while, finally sobers up and comforts Victoria by pointing out that there is absolutely nothing wrong in wanting companionship and wanting that relationship. After all, she is proof that you can be all driven about your work and lose sight of what benefit a relationship brings you, what with how lonely she's been ever since her work's been soaring the way she's always wanted it to. Victoria is thankful and declares that she will stay. At that point, Lily shows up with the dress and it is indeed stunning. Lily mourns the fact that she won't be able to afford to buy it, but it is great that for a moment she's able to wear it and see how lovely she looks. She walks back and sits on the table, except she sits on a cake, and to make matters worse, rips the dress when she tries to stand to see what the damage is. When the store manager shows up, Lily in tears says that she will charge the dress to her credit cards. Plural. Anyways, afterwards, it's later that evening. Ted and Victoria meet. Victoria hands Ted a cupcake, and after he bites into it, he immediately asks her to stay, whilst Victoria says that she is leaving. This is a clear shorthand by the show to let us know that these two will never be in sync. Anyway, they both admit that they wanted to say the other thing, i.e. Ted wanted to break up and Victoria wanted to stay, but Ted changes his mind after eating the cupcake, and Victoria changes her mind upon hearing that Ted wants her to give up on her dreams for their barely 2-month-old relationship. They break up. And the next morning, Marshall asks Ted why he just wouldn't spend the rest of the time that Victoria is still around before she travels together with her, doing all the things they want to do instead of just already condemning themselves to unhappy times when there's still a day left before Victoria's flight takes off. And so, Ted goes back to meet Victoria and they spend the time in bed having a shit ton of sex. Meanwhile, at McLaren's, Lily is wondering how on earth she will be able to tell Marshall the truth about the way extravagant wedding dress she ruined and had to charge to their credit card. Marshall, on the other hand, is giving Serge's bill from Barney and discovers that his new suit, whilst very snazzy, also costs $4,000. Barney is like, well, that means the actual cost would have set you back 12K. You're welcome. Whilst Marshall is wailing about how on earth he'll be able to afford the suit, Barney points out that rather than interning at his dream company that wouldn't pay him shit, Marshall can intern at Barney's company instead in their legal department and make some good money as an intern. Marshall turns him down until Lily blurts out that she ruined and had to pay for an 8K wedding dress, at which point Marshall asks Barney when the interview is for working at his company. Ted, meanwhile, sees Victoria off at the airport, but before she leaves, he asks her if they can give long distance a try, and she agrees as they kiss. You would think that this is a happy ending, but nope, because Ted's voiceover already spoils us that it doesn't last long at all, and we see the signs of this in the next episode titled Live Among the Gorillas, which is more a Marshall and Lily-centric episode, but the few glimpses we see of Ted, the long-distance relationship is clearly wearing down on him. Victoria keeps sending him care packages, and Ted, as at when he received a third care package, still hadn't sent anything to her. And when he finally did, and later they got on a call together, he found himself falling asleep in the middle of said phone call to her. He confides in Robin about how exhausted he is and how hard them being long distance is, and decides that something has to change. He needs to go pay a visit to his girlfriend in Germany. But before he can purchase a plane ticket to Germany, he receives an email from Victoria who tells him that their relationship being long distance is hard and they need to talk that night. Ted tells Robin about the email and is convinced that Victoria is planning to break up with him. Robin tells him not to make assumptions, but just to be safe, he shouldn't buy the plane ticket just yet. An anxious Ted keeps waiting for Victoria's call that hasn't come in yet, and after calling Robin one too many times, she tells him to go out. So he goes to hang out with Marshall, Lily and Barney at the karaoke bar. Ted drinks quite a bit as he waits, still no phone call, and heads back to the apartment. At past 2 a.m., 4 hours after when Victoria was meant to call, with Ted still waiting on said call, Robin calls Ted and asks if he wants to come over. Which then brings us to the episode titled Nothing Good Ever Happens After 2 a.m., which picks things up from where the last episode left things off. Robin's made the call. Ted remembers his mother telling him that nothing good ever happens after 2 a.m. and he should instead go to bed. But does Ted listen? Of course not. But before we dive into Ted's absolute bonkers life choices, the episode takes us through Robin's life the previous day that led to her calling Ted at 2 a.m. the next morning. She woke up that morning, took care of her dogs, went to Lily's kindergarten class where she talked to Lily's students who are ultra focused on the fact that Robin is single and wondering if she's lonely or if she's a lesbian. Then, to make matters worse, her co-anchor Sandy Rivers hits on her, telling Robin that he wants to have sex with her, not actually date her, and if she's interested or changes her mind, he hands her his business card. Ew. Assat. Anyway, in the midst of this, Ted's still calling Robin like no man's business, panicking that Victoria still hasn't called him yet. Robin gets back home, pours herself a ginormous glass of wine, downs it all, and calls Ted to invite him over for some juice. Ted reads between the lines and heads to Robin's apartment. On his way there, his subconscious sends Victoria his way to try to talk him out of what would undisputedly be a terrible decision. Ted still insists on lying to himself that nothing is going to happen, and just to satisfy his conscience, calls Marshall, who reminds Ted of what his mother's always said, i.e., nothing good ever happens after 2 a.m. Lily, meanwhile, grabs the phone from Marshall to add her own 2 cents that it is a terrible idea, especially because Robin likes Ted and he needs to go home. But see, here is why I think it is all a setup, because everyone knows that Ted has the emotional control of a 4-year-old, especially when it's about him finding his annoying ass the one. And Lily saying that was all the green light Ted needed to absolutely go to Robin's apartment. Once again, Victoria from his subconscious shows up and Ted instead blames her, saying that this is all her fault for not answering her phone. Robin invites him into her apartment, tells Ted that she's had a long day and the person she wanted to see was Ted. She suggests they have wine and then asks about Victoria, at which point Ted lies that they are broken up. They are circling each other in that way that you know something is about to go down. Marshall calls Ted, trying to invite him to McLaren's, which is where they are now all going. Ted admits that he's already at Robin's and says that he's been waiting for this for months. Robin likes him. She wants him. Robin is the one he's always wanted. He will break up with Victoria tomorrow. Lily once again grabs the phone to yell at Ted to wait. He should break up with Victoria first before getting together with Robin. Ted walks back into Robin's apartment and tells her that he needs to leave. They hug, which then turns into a kiss and then several kisses as they take things to the couch. Robin suggests they move things to her bedroom and Ted grabs his phone and tells her to give him a moment as he heads into the bathroom. Subconscious Victoria shows up again and Ted tells her that it's always been Robin and he's exhausted from having to pretend all this time that he still doesn't want Robin. He doesn't want to do a long distance relationship and he just wants to get laid. Subconscious Victoria is like, I understand. But you owe me an actual conversation instead of this one that we have going on in your mind whilst you're in the bathroom of the woman you are planning on cheating on me with. Ted tells her fine. Only to realize that because his new phone is the same model as Robin's, the phone he grabbed wasn't his. He walks out of the bathroom only to see Robin frozen solid on the phone. Turns out that it was Victoria who just called and Robin picked up thinking it was her phone. She tells Ted to call his girlfriend back and walks into the bedroom, shutting the door behind her. Ted leaves Robin's apartment and he and Victoria break up on his cab ride back home. And future Ted tells his kids that indeed nothing good ever happens after 2 a.m. as in one night he made the worst mistake of his life and hurt 2 women who mattered to him. And whilst Ted would want to make the claim that that truly is the case for him, I find myself unable and unwilling to believe that that night would be the worst mistake of his life, because if there is anything that these 3 episodes confirm for me, it is the fact that Ted Mosby has a serious case of buyer's remorse. And the thing about buyer's remorse is that it's never a one and done one-time deal, especially when you're a con artist like Ted. Now, here's the thing. I'm sure a lot of us have experienced buyer's remorse. And if you have no idea what buyer's remorse is, it's that situation that arises after you've made a purchase where before you bought it, whilst you were looking at it, when you were in the process of making the purchase, you're filled with the anticipation and eagerness of having the item. All you can see is that you're about to get something you really want and life is beautiful. But then the minute you complete the purchase, after the money is left your account and you make it back home, placing the bags on the floor, you look at what you just spent so much of your money on and you're hit immediately with the what the hell did I do and the this was such a bad idea, I shouldn't have bought this feels. That feeling of instant regrets after you've gotten something you were so excited to own before you got it, something that you thought was absolutely priceless and worth its cost until you got home, fully owned it, and are then hit with the repercussions of what you've just done and the money you've just spent, that feeling, that is buyer's remorse. And Ted Mosby, as I'm sure you could see from the 3 episodes, is a pro at it. I cannot believe this child, and yes, I am using this word purposefully because all I feel right now is rage. I cannot believe this child, after everything we went through with his ass screaming about wanting Victoria, after he stepped over every single one of her boundaries, after he would not leave her alone because she might be the one. After all of that, you mean to tell me that his ass went all, it was Robin. It was always Robin. Bye, Victoria. Excuse me? What the fuck? And it's funny because in my last video, I was just talking about how I felt that based off of how their relationship started, Victoria and Ted were doomed. The fact that she had clear boundaries set in place in order to protect herself and her heart, only for Ted to walk all over it on the premise that she might be the love of his life. And how the show tries to excuse that as, oh, Ted is just in love, instead of calling it for what it is, that Ted Mosby is an emotional terrorist. And to have my suspicions confirmed in just 5 episodes later, it is crazy. Because the entirety of Nothing Good Ever Happens After 2 a.m. was Ted walking all over the feelings of bliss and attraction and love that he had felt with Victoria back when we were in the drum roll please episode. Like it's been barely 2 months after they met. In 2 months, actually a little over 2 months because, she's been in a fellowship for a while. But in 2 to 5 months, Victoria went from the woman that Ted would call everybody for in order to try and track down her identity. She went from this spark of lightning and inspiration that he absolutely desperately needed to find because she was everything and their connection was incredible. He went from that to debating with subconscious Victoria and informing her that all she was a stand-in for Robin, and that as long as Robin sends even a smidgen of interest his way, he is willing to break her heart because she's not Robin. She's a substitute whose value only exists on a temporary basis. And before anybody comes and says, well, no, yeah, it's not just Robin. He also had a problem with them doing long distance because he doesn't want to do a long distance relationship. I would like to point out two things. One, if Ted could not handle it, it should not have brought it up in the first place. Victoria wasn't the one that suggested they have a long distance relationship. Ted did. And the minute after he said it, that is when the buyer's remorse crept in. The minute after he got her to commit to a relationship that she had already said might not work, he once again got swept up in emotions and went all, we can make it work. And so she agreed and she put in the work. She was the one sending care packages to show that he was in her thoughts. The fact that he never sent her one, and the only reason why he ended up sending the only one she got from him was because he had lied that he had already sent it days prior. Like, come on. The writing was clear and it was on the wall. Shortly after he committed himself into a long-distance relationship, Ted Mosby immediately regretted it. Because the thing about Ted is that once the novelty of that relationship wears out, it is no longer the bright and shiny thing he wanted and couldn't have. It is now familiar and has lost a lot of its luster. It's no longer the one. Secondly, let's be honest, if the persons were switched, if it had been Robin who had to go for some conference or fellowship in Germany, do you honestly think that Ted would have lost interest so quickly? Like, let's be honest. And even with that, hell, I think eventually he might lose interest. But not as quickly. Eventually, though, the long distance might get to him. If anything, because I really do think that Ted Mosby is the kind of person who only likes what he likes when he hasn't gotten his hands on it yet. I think that is a person who is drawn to the chase and only really values and appreciates it when he has not actually acquired what he wants just yet. That's when he expands the most efforts. After he's gotten what he wants, however, after he's acquired what he's long desired, then he stops really valuing it as much as he did back when he didn't have it yet. And I think the same might most likely happen with Robin. Right now, part of what is caught within is the beauty, and the part of what is caught up within is the beauty and endless possibilities of her, the her that he hasn't gotten the chance to be with yet. He's convinced himself that she is the one because he's not dated her yet. When he does get around to doing so, however, when he finally acquires the Robin of his dreams and imaginations and has to deal with all the troubles and the mundaneness of life that comes with being with her, I wonder if he would still have the same thoughts, if he would still feel the same way, or if his buyer's remorse would once again come back to the fore. Like I said earlier, I think there's a lot to be said about why this entire sequence of events that led to Ted and Victoria's breakup was juxtaposed against both Marshall and Lily's purchase of their wedding outfits. Marshall absolutely loved the suit and showed it off everywhere. Lily thought that the wedding dress was stunning and made her look like a princess, but then all that good feeling went up in smoke when they were hit with the reality of their purchase. For Marshall, it's the fact that the suit cost $4,000. His surprise is hilarious because what amazing tailored to your exact measurement suit is cheap, Marshall Erickson. And Lily's hit with the double whammy because she has to pay for a ruined dress that she probably can't wear. I don't know, does anyone know of a way to get cake stains that messy and deep out of a wedding dress? It's a nice way to show how as people we can really like something until we are met with the reality of the situation, and then what we got that prior to the reality check we had absolutely loved and enjoyed and appreciated becomes practically a burden. And the fact that we get to see this in the show with Ted and Victoria and Marshall and Lily is such a nice touch. I mean, there's something about the fact that whilst the couples that is Ted and Victoria and Marshall and Lily both instantly shut down the idea of a long distance relationship, Marshall and Lily did once pull it off and they actually succeeded. It's proof that you have to accept that yes, it is work, but the person is worth it. And ultimately, what the episode shows was that to Ted, Victoria wasn't worth it. And my dearest baby girl deserved so much better. But hey, Those are just my thoughts. I would, as always, love to hear yours. Do you agree with me? Do you disagree with me? Please let me know in the comments. Like this video if you've watched this far and haven't done so yet. Share this if you want. Support me on Patreon if you can. If you can't, however, consider checking out my other channels. I have a channel dedicated to me playing video games if that's more your thing, or you're one of the people who find my voice soothing. You can check out my ASMR channel. I have the links to all of them in the description box, so do check them out. And until tomorrow's video, do remember, obsessing over the things you love, perfectly valid coping mechanism.